Well, hello everybody and welcome back indoors for, 2/3 of my gardening season. Let's just call a duck. Since I've moved to West Manitoba, my outdoor season has gotten ridiculously short, and that's just kind of the way it is. Before I get started showing you the amazing indoor gardens of Bearbalon here, I do want to apologize for the lack of a video last week. I took a week off from work and spontaneously decided that meant the channel too. So, yeah, everything's fine. Everybody's fine. I just didn't make a video last week. So yeah, many apologies to all of those of you who look forward to these, but I'm sure you understand. Everybody needs a break from time to time. Anyway, so today we are looking at the 8-month indoor gardening season and the random collection of plants that I have shoved into the house. Now you may recognize a few things here that aren't technically supposed to be here, because year after year I say I ain't gonna do it, but you'll notice some changes to those too. So let's get started showing you some plants, shall we? So in the guest room, which is also currently acting as something of a pantry, look at all those tomatoes. Those Cherokee purples, they were so close to actually getting ripe on time. So close. Anyway, we clearly have an abundance, need to do some sorting there. And yeah, that's really exciting. But the plant that brings us in here today is the heavy kalanchoe planting that's supposed to be toxic to other plants in its soil because it, toxifies the soil, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I brought it in because I didn't think it was going to survive our winter, and I still feel pretty confident of that. But you'll notice we've got this one thing that looks kind of like a wild carrot. I think maybe it's a Queen Anne's lace. I'm not sure. It's still growing in there. We've got this tomato still growing in there, even though it gets a very poor light. And it's actually starting to produce a tomato. And there are a couple places off to the side here. The lighting in here is terrible, but look like they might be starting to produce kalanchoe flowers. So that's going to be really interesting. And I'm going to bring up one of the spare lights that I've got down in the dungeon to, throw some light at this. And we'll see just kind of what comes of it. It doesn't look like it brought in any pests. So hopefully long term I'll be able to integrate it back into one of the other gardens. It's kind of lonely in here. And yeah, so that's the kalanchoe and its diverse planting. It seems to be doing all right. Let's move on to the hospital room. So I'm going to warn you right now, there's going to be a massive change in the light spectrum. And that is why I warned you. So yeah, not going to bring the peppers in as usual, I brought the peppers in, but this time I decided, we have a second bathroom that we kind of don't use the tub in because I don't trust it structurally. And a long time ago I set this up as kind of a quarantine area for dying plants and kind of a hospital area. And you'll notice, look at this, I don't seem to have an aphid infestation going on with this plant yet either. I do, however, have some delightful and startlingly red peppers on here, so I'm going to want to pull those out or take those off, because as Brother Troll pointed out, that's going to be sending a signal to the plant that it's time to die, and that's not what I want, because looking down here, hopefully you can see it, the light is so hard on this camera. We got one fresh pepper flower there, and I thought I noticed a total of 3 on here. There's one just back there. So it's still trying to produce, which is absolutely amazing. This is a 2.5-year-old pepper at this point. Now, it's got some weeds from being outside that are trying to grow in there. I have decided I'm going to let those grow. With everything that I'm learning about soil biology and mycorrhizal fungi and stuff, I honestly don't see the harm. So moving over to the ancient bad brains pepper here that looks so decrepit, right? Like I've got to cut this all off because that's terrible. But at the base of it all, we see pepper life. And what really amazes me about this planting is since it's come inside, this oregano has just gone insane. I tell you, these Mars lights, they really do grow culinary herbs quite well anyway. Can't speak for anything else, but this oregano is sure pretty happy, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe I should throw a parsley in there too, because fresh herbs in the wintertime, right? You can't really beat that. And we've got the other unknown pepper here. Again, I need to do some trimming and take some of the dead stuff off. But again, I'm noticing there's a flower there. Hopefully it's coming up in the video. I see behind there's kind of another flower. LED lights, these particular LED lights, I should say, are always very awkward in the videos, and I do apologize for that. Once again, there's a lot of different weeds that have sprouted up in this potting soil, and once again, I am going to leave them for that diversity, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, even over here in the bad brains, the only pepper that I can still identify, because this is a good way to label things. It's got a couple of grass sprouts in there. Looks like maybe a dandelion or so. I'm just gonna leave them. And we'll check back on these from time to time. Do let me know in the comments below if you want to see me taste one of these on some sort of a live stream. That seems dangerous, but oh, it's always a lot of fun, isn't it? So yeah, let me know down in the comments if you want to see me go through that particular bit of torture. Otherwise, I'll just powder those up for this year's hot pepper harvest. One plant. Oh, so unusual. Anyway, back to a different light spectrum. We're going to go check out what's going on in Shocks's Tarot Studio. We're going to start with what I think is probably the most beautiful plant in the house right now. As remarkable as those peppers may be, this is apparently an amaryllis. And Shocks was given these, oh, some time ago. And they were left outside. We were going to take them down, and they're supposed to winter or hibernate or whatever it is these things do. Let's look down here. They're just in very little pots. Quite the base on it though. But anyway, yeah, it was supposed to flower like much later in the season, and that is exactly what it's doing. It's up here in the studio, and it is putting on just beautiful flowers. So that is lovely. But also up in the studio here, we have a lovely collection of other things. Like there's some spider plants around. The Dieffenbachia seems so much happier with fairy care than bear care. This thing was dying when I was in charge of it, but give it to her, and just look at that. That is amazing. Not terribly surprising though. Her mom had a monster Dieffenbachia. It was great. I got some more spider plants in here, and then I think this little one down here that in my opinion maybe could use a little bit more light. I think that is a lavender. Then we get this little purple rose here. Not dyed or anything. It actually did bloom purple. I think that's 2 years old now. So kind of fun. Still don't know what that kind of tree is here. This leaf. If anybody knows what that is, somebody once told me it might be a type of umbrella plant. I'm not quite sure. This one looks like it might have some aphids on it though. I would have to come in here and do a cleaning for her. Easy enough though, easy enough. But yeah, isn't that a lovely Dieffenbachia? Oh, just beautiful. And then of course there's the kitchen window. Every good kitchen window has to be covered in plants. We got, you know, more spider plants. What a surprise. And I think this is a Christmas cactus over here. And this poor spider plant has been in these itty bitty shot glass size solo cups for so long now. Look at that root mass under there. That's terrible. I really should transplant it, but it suffers for science. So these are mostly Shocks' succulents here. Actually, I think they're all Shocks' succulents. There's this one calantria over here that's kind of technically mine, but I've ignored it so long she's taking care of it now. This one's an interesting one. I think that's called a string of pearls. Quite cool, quite cool. And then with the other front window, looking a little sparse at the moment because I just raided a couple of plants that you'll see downstairs in a couple minutes. But here we have the kitchen aloe, which is doing quite nice. Got some lovely size to it. Still not throwing any pups for me. A lot of folks have suggested the planter is just too deep and it kind of wants something shallow to spread out in. But I haven't replanted it because if it ain't broke, you know, don't fix it. But take a look at the leaves here, and then I want to show you the aloe plants that are down in the dungeon because wow. So moving down the house here, that brings us to the incredibly neglected aquaponic garden. I really haven't paid much attention to it, as you can clearly see from the mint and the spider plants at the end here. So yeah, the basement has been essentially ignored for the last, well, 4 months, because I can garden outside. And the vast majority of the aquaponic goldfish are out in their summer home in that big IBC tote. But I am still loving how using this LED shop light above the tank just makes it so much easier to see them. Yeah, the water level's not too bad. Unfortunately, the pleco didn't make it. I didn't have enough algae in the tank at the time, but there seems to be plenty now, so I don't know, we might make a trip into the city to see if I can find maybe a smaller pleco that can live off of smaller amounts. I just don't know. Anyway, I got some changes I need to make into the aquaponic garden today. Looking at other stuff growing down in the basement, here is that multi-year mouse melon that kind of looks dead until you look way down at the base there, and you can kind of see some green coming out. I believe it was Punky Rooster who pointed out this is a rhizome kind of plant, so it sinks a lot of energy into the soil and can and will come back from that year after year given the opportunity. This particular cucamelon or mouse melon does kind of seem to prove that point, so that's fun. Then that kind of moves us over to the Darwin table. We see, you know, spider plants that have struggled and made it through because, well, they're spider plants, they just put up with it. This one though, that purple plant back there is apparently also a variety of a spider plant. So I thought because of the whole diversity thing that I'm getting into these days, I would try, well, 2 plantings of each in one planter. And I have to say, even though, you know, it's received just as little water and attention as everything else, it is, well, it's been doing the best out of all the spider plants down here. So that is quite interesting. Even though they're both spider plant variants, I guess they're different enough that it helps with a little bit of drought tolerance. So that's kind of cool and definitely exciting for my farmland research. The chamber pot aloe. This is what has inspired me this year. I have issues growing peppers and tomatoes and all kinds of things down here, but this aloe has been doing just fine. Now, upstairs, looking at the kitchen aloe, I was like, now I want you to pay attention to that because I'm going to show you the ones downstairs. Look at this, and this is primarily growing under the fluorescent light here. This is not one of the LEDs above it yet. I mean, that's a 17 watt LED beside it, and I think that's kind of why we've got this going on. So I'm going to rearrange the table a little bit over the course of the day as well. These spider plants are just trucking along doing their thing, but this aloe here, now look at look at these. These are monstrous. This is a rescue, recently found with all of its root mass taken off and all of its top taken off. I pulled off a whole bunch of the bottom leaves that I'll show you in a minute on the workbench and plunked it in, filled it up with potting soil, been watering it mostly from the bottom, and have been hoping for the best like I do. So this here in the middle is definitely the bright green of new growth, and that is new growth since I planted it. I figure there's a real good chance that it's taking some of its life from the aloe here to make the aloe, but at the same time, this is still very, very firm. These leaves are not really wanting too much. We've got some, looks like a mold or a mildew going on the edge here, so I'll probably take the scissors to that, but that at the same time could be where it's drawing its life from while it's putting on roots for me. So I'm super excited that hopefully we will have added another aloe plant to the collection, and I'm super excited that maybe I can use some of these cuttings to root some more plants, but that's, you know, going to be an ongoing winter experiment. Let's take a look at the bench and I'll show you just kind of how those cuttings are doing. Now I apologize again because I don't have lights over here at the moment, but again, very soon to change that. These have been off for, I'd say, a couple of weeks, and they're still pretty solid. I mean, I've got browning around the edges. I mean, look at the size of some of these leaves that I cut off of there, right? just monstrous. So I'm hoping, I'm going to do a little bit of YouTube research on this, but I'm hoping to use one of those black produce trays that I've got, fill it up with some type of medium, and then maybe just like stuff these in on kind of an angle. And maybe some of them will root for me. I have not had any success. Oh, we're fading in and out there. I haven't had any success trying to root aloe leaves like this before, but I have seen it done on YouTube, so I want to try. And then these would be the two little succulent trees that I liberated, we'll say, from the kitchen window, making it look so bare, because this was really easy to make a cutting from. I just cut it like one of these type branches off, shoved it into a solo cup, and that's actually where this one came from. And it's time to do that to this again and replant them. They kind of on the small side for their planters, but we're going to gift a few of these to a couple of our friends that are also interested in growing weird sort of succulent houseplants. So yeah, lots of fun, lots of stuff to be keeping myself busy with this winter. So I was going to get to mucking about with the lights and changing things here in the basement garden so that it's set up and good to go, but I've got this funny feeling like this video has already dragged on for a really long time. So if you're still with me and you're new to the channel, by all means, feel free to click that subscribe button. If you're still with me and you've been around for a while, hey, why not click the like? It helps the algorithm, puts me in front of new people, gets the channel a little bit more visibility, and who knows, I might go back to making more and more random type videos again. So that could be fun. But either way, the winter is going to be full of a lot of succulent type projects. I've got a few different things that I want to grow down here in the aquaponics and on the Darwin table, and I've got some well, major changes to the lighting that I need to make. So yeah, stick around, it's going to be a lot of fun. Failing all else, I will see you next Sunday. Take care, everybody, and much love.